In this video, we'll work on Discourse 1.3. So let's go to single sentence mode. And sentence 1, Goliath was a soldier for Philistia's army. We've already worked on this data grid adjustment rule. Let's generate it now. Okay, Goliath was, for Philistia's army, a soldier. Okay, if we rest our cursor here, okay, grammatical relation equals oblique 1. And if we rest our cursor here, grammatical relation equals oblique. The oblique, the generic oblique, that comes at the end. If we look at our phrase structure rule for clauses, so we have the obliques, 1, 2, 3, 4, and normally we set all of these in our theta grid adjustment rules. But then this last one is just sort of to catch all the other obliques. So, now this is a state noun phrase. See, the semantic rule is a state. And my understanding is that state NPs don't have grammatical relations. So that's why it defaults to oblique. If we rest our cursor here, we can see that the grammatical relation was changed from no grammatical relation to oblique by the transfer grammar feature adjustment rules, rule 5. And if you want to see that rule, you can look here, rule 5. And if you double click here, you'll see the rule. So this is a rule that we provide for you that provides the grammatical relations for all of the noun phrases, but it doesn't provide a grammatical relation for state noun phrases. Because like I said, I think that state noun phrases don't have grammatical relations. So let's enter a state noun phrase into our phrase structure rule for clauses. It'll come up here. Let's put it in the main clause. And this will be a state noun phrase, which doesn't have a grammatical relation. So it's up here. Let's put it right there, right before the object. Goliath was a soldier for Philistia's army. Okay, next sentence. Okay, we haven't worked on the theta grid adjustment rule for come yet. Okay, so come takes a source noun phrase, a destination noun phrase, and an instrument. And if we looked up here, okay, the magicians came to the palace, so the destination in English takes the preposition to. The woman came from Moab, so in English the source noun phrase takes the preposition from. And then that king came to the people with authority. So the instrument noun phrase will take the preposition with. So the source, we'll put the source first, oblique 1, oblique 2, oblique 3. This will get from, to, and with. And for the adjective each, I don't think we need to do anything with this data grid adjustment rule. Let's just say it's unnecessary. Each day Goliath came to Israel's army. Okay, next sentence. Then Goliath shouted. Okay, shout. Okay, in our argument structure, shout takes a patient noun phrase. It's optional. It's not always there. It takes a patient noun phrase and a patient proposition. In other words, an object complement clause. So here, we want to insert the word to. Let's set its grammatical relation to oblique 1. And we don't need to do anything. We don't need to set this agent noun to big pro or the verb to an infinitive or anything. Okay, choose. Okay, choose takes a source noun phrase. The soldiers chose slaves from the leaders, and it also takes a beneficiary noun phrase. Haggai chose perfume for Esther. Okay, fight. This is to fight an individual. Not when countries fight each other in wars, but this is for individuals. Okay, it takes an instrument noun phrase. The disciples fought those people with their swords. So this will be an oblique 1. Then Goliath shouted to Israel's soldiers, choose one man, one who will fight me. Okay, shouted to Israel's soldiers, shouted to its soldiers. When we're in single sentence mode, TBTA can't get the pronouns that the MTT identified. So we'll ignore that problem. Let's ignore this word. Okay, choose one man, one who. Okay, one who. Okay, this, if we rest our cursor here, this is a relative pronoun. So we want to delete numbers for relative pronouns. We want to go down to the... Okay, delete constituents that modify pronouns. Okay, so this rule right now, it only deletes prenominals that modify personal pronouns. Let's change the features on this so it includes relative pronouns. And we want to delete an adjective phrase. And we're going to tag these as optional. And remember, these need to be in the right order. Prenominals like the or this or that. Or actually, one of those. I'm not sure if this adjective phrase goes before or after the prenominal. We'll put it there for now. This will work for this verse, for this sentence. It might be these three people, so these three them. We'll put it there for now, and later we might need to make changes. Okay, then we're going to ignore this problem. And so that fixed the problem. We may need to make more changes in the future, but let's keep going on. Okay, if that man kills me, we'll become your slaves. If that man kills me, we will become your slaves. Okay, so now we have a prenominal before a possessive pronoun. So let's go back and include possessive pronouns. And this is a prenominal, and we've already handled prenominals in here. So that should fix that problem. If that man kills me, we will become your slaves. Okay, the MTT said we'll. So let's write a rule that will contract we and will. That will be down in find replace. We have a group for punctuation. Let's add another group for contractions. Okay. Now here, when you write these, you should put in a leading space and a trailing space just to make sure you're dealing with full words. So now we know this has to be we will. Then down here, you want to replace it with a leading space and a trailing space. If that man kills me, we'll become your slaves. Okay, next sentence. Okay, kill. Kill takes an instrument noun phrase. The man killed the teacher with a sword. And it also takes a beneficiary noun phrase. People killed Jesus for Paul. And you may wonder, since all of these beneficiary noun phrases take the preposition for in English, why don't we just write a generic rule that will put the word for into all beneficiaries? And you could do that. We don't always know which grammatical relation the beneficiary should be. In English, we tend to put it last, so you can make it oblique for if you wanted. You could write a generic rule that applies to all beneficiaries. We used to do it that way. When we were writing grammars years ago, we would look for generic rules, but we found that those would often get us into trouble. So lately we've been writing much more specific rules, meaning we have to write more of them, but they're very specific, and that produces better text. So we will continue for each theta grid adjustment rule. We'll write for the beneficiary, we'll insert the word for, but if you want to write a generic rule, you can. Okay. And become. Okay, become takes a beneficiary noun phrase. Here we're going to make it oblique 1, but you could make it oblique 4. But if I kills that man, you will become our slaves. Okay, so we have two issues here. Let's deal with the contraction first, you'll. Those are easy. Again, we put a leading space and a trailing space. Okay, but if I kills that man, okay, kills, that's only for third singular. But if I kills that man, we can see here, kill was changed to kills by layer 4, adverbial clauses, row 1. So let's go to that rule, that list of rules that apply during generation process. This one here. Layer 4. Okay, this deals with all adverbial clauses. And it was row 1, conditional. Third singular present. Okay, this works fine if it's actually third singular. If it's anything other than third singular, if I kill, if you kill, if we kill, if you all kill, if they kill, we want just the stem for anything other than third singular. So let's make a copy of this row. And we always put the more specific ones later in the layer. So let's make this one the third singular. So we'll specify third singular. And it's already conditional. And this still applies if John reads this book. And third singular still finds. This will now be all the other conditionals, and instead of specifying third singular present, we just want the stem. But if I kill that man, you'll become our slaves. Okay. Next sentence. Let's look at the theta grid adjustment rule for here. Okay, there's only an agent and a patient, so we can tag it as unnecessary. Become. Okay, there's a source noun phrase. The people became well from leprosy. Okay. Let's say it's an oblique. And it takes the preposition from. We won't insert the example here because it doesn't have a source. Okay, afraid. This is the sense of afraid that no object or event is mentioned. And I don't think we'll need this theta grid adjustment rule. Okay, whenever King Saul, okay, the MTT put a capital K for the title. Okay, let's ignore that. King Saul and they became extremely afraid. They became terrified. Okay, extremely afraid. So let's write a rule that changes extremely afraid to terrified. And to do that, we'll use the theta grid adjustment rule for afraid. Okay, I tagged it as unnecessary. Let's activate it. And let's say when the degree is extremely intensified, we'll provide a new translation of terrified. More terrified, most terrified. Let's make a note. Okay, we still have an issue here. Okay, that didn't work. They became extremely terrified. They became extremely afraid. Okay, let's go back to this rule. Oh, okay. This is the verb become. This rule right now is set up only for the verb to be. We can add another word here. Okay, this is become sense A, the predicative one. So we'll choose that. So now, you see ... that means there are multiple concepts back there, and if you rest your cursor here, now this will apply to either be sense D or become sense A. So I think that will fix that problem. Okay, they became extremely terrified. Okay, when we use terrified, we don't want to say extremely terrified. Okay, so we need to go back to this rule again. And in the output, it should no longer be okay, at least one word in the input structure has multiple concepts listed. You want to set up a table so that you can specify different features for different concepts. We'll say no. When we change to terrified, we'll set the degree to no degree. Okay, so that worked. They became terrified. Okay, we have a problem here with pronouns. Let's work on this. King with a capital K. So whenever king is in a title, it's going to modify a noun, and we want a capital K. Okay, let's do this. Let's handle this with our noun-noun relationship rules. Okay, title. So whenever title is king, we want a new word that has a capital K. So let's say new translation, and we'll enter a new word with a capital K. Countable, common, masculine. Let's make a note. Okay, we don't need all of that. So King Saul with a capital K. And again, we don't need all of this here. We'll eventually, I'm sure, do the same thing for queen. Whenever King Saul and his soldiers heard Goliath's words, King Saul and his they became terrified. Okay, so we have an issue with pronouns. I'll tell you right now, the pronoun identification rules are going to be the most difficult rules to write. And even after you invest a significant amount of effort into writing those rules, still TBTA won't produce the pronouns exactly the way you want them. Let's save that till the next video. That's the last sentence for this verse. Let's deal with pronouns in the next video. Let's go to the full verse and see how it comes out. Okay, what did the MTT say? Each day Goliath came to Israel's army and shouted to its soldiers. So we have two sentences in a row. Each day Goliath came and Goliath shouted. So they have the same subject. This one is simple. This one, it includes an object complement clause, but that's okay. So let's write a rule that joins these two sentences. We already have one similar to that up in our structural adjustment rules, combined sentences. We already have this one. Okay, this rule didn't work. And I'm pretty sure it's because these are joined with then. If they're joined with then, we still want to combine these, but we want to change the then to and. So let's copy the structure. So now we're editing structure 2. Let's change this from and to then. We'll deselect the and. But then let's provide a new translation of and. And this is joining sentences 2 and 3. Goliath was a soldier for Philistia's army. Each day Goliath came to Israel's army and shouted to Israel's soldiers. Shouted to its soldiers. Okay, let's ignore that. Okay, so we have a pronoun issue here and a pronoun issue here. And we'll deal with those in the next video.